For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm actually making this video for the Boyce Watkins Black Business School channel. And my name is Cheryl Irvin. I'm going to share my screen for a moment and show you the database and what we have been working on over the past couple of weeks. So, can you see my screen, Baba?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So if you can see it, other people can see it as well. So this is the database of African-centered schools in the United States. And these are not all of the schools that have been submitted. These are just all of the schools that have been able to be uploaded onto the map so far. The others will be added, and please, like I said, continue to send submissions. The red dots are various schools across the country. If you hover over the dot, you can get some basic information about the school. The green dots are home schools. So if you have a homeschool co-op, they are important institutions in our community as well. Please send those in and we can put them onto the map as well. And the blue squares are community organizations. If you have, again, an organization like the Council of Independent Black Institutions or Fernando Pulon Community Arts Center, it's not necessarily a brick and mortar school, but it is, the Cave of Agilon, oh my gosh, amazing, amazing institution out of Detroit. Amazing. So if you have a school, a homeschool co-op, or any type of organization or institution or program that services, educates Black children, please, please, please send them in so that we can add them to our database. So that's what we've been working on. Actually, one more time on sharing the screen. Right here in Fort Worth, Texas, is the Uhuru Academy. Is the Uhuru Academy. And we have the founder and originator and one of the directors of the Uhuru Academy right here with us, Dr. Baba Amin. So I'm going to give you a moment to introduce yourself. Oh, one other thing about the map. So if you hover over the dot, you can see some basic information about the school. And if you click on it, it clicks through and takes you to the school's, either their website or their Facebook page, so that you can see videos about that school, institution, or program or organization. So click through, see what it is that we're doing in our community. There's not just one person trying to build a school. There are scores of people in our community who have already built schools, and that's what we are here to showcase. So Baba Amin, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about the Uhuru Academy?
All right. Well, again, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the work, amazing work that you're doing with Dr. Boyce Watkins and bringing light to the African-centered school movement. My name is Baba Amin Imamu Ojuok. I am the co-founder, along with my wife and Koyo Ojuok, of the Uhuru Academy. We're located in Fort Worth, Texas, and we are Fort Worth's first and only African-centered private school, founded in 2010. So we're entering our 8th year this year. We serve children from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. We graduate our children. We're a small program, but we do big things. And we are an African-centered institution in that we teach everything in our school from an African-centered perspective. We also seek to empower our students with a sense of duty towards the global African family and towards our ultimate goal of reaching global African sovereignty. Let's see. We're currently in session, you know, we just started our spring semester, and we're here. And if it wasn't for the support of African people in the community, we wouldn't be here. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank the community at large. When they say Black people don't come together or Black people don't support Black-owned businesses, oh, we do. But definitely we could come up with some greater strategies to maximize that support. Like the one that you guys are promoting right now. So I'm very humble and very pleased to be here this morning.
Yeah, I find that to be the case as well, that there are so many people in our community that are waiting to support, that want to support, that are asking, where can I send my time, my effort, my energy, and even my money?
Yes.
Where can I send it to, in a place that is going to actually be used for our children and for the upliftment of our children? And like I said, we have that, and I applaud you in the work that you're doing for the past 8 years in educating and graduating children. It's not just children that you're graduating. Could you talk about the other element of your school?
We do. We definitely have an adult education program as well at the Uhuru Academy that we call Operation Reconnect. We recognize that we have a lot of young people and mature adults that stopped out of school for whatever reason, you know, be it family, be it the state standardized, culturally biased test, or whatever. But we have so many people sitting at home, underemployed and or unemployed, or shut off from education and employment opportunities simply because they didn't get that piece of paper. So we have a program, an accelerated high school diploma program, where we enroll up from age 16 and up, and give them the opportunity to earn a high school diploma through the Uhuru Academy. Matter of fact, last week we just graduated 5 adults in the community, you know, including one mother, a single mother, including a sister who's been fighting drugs all her life and finally turned her life around and wants to go to take a culinary arts class. So she came through Operation Reconnect to get her high school diploma. Another sister who lost her mother when she was in her early teens and hadn't been to school since the 9th grade. We enrolled her in our program, and she's entered college this semester. So you can't scream Black power if you don't empower Black people, and we believe in empowering our people through education. And so, yeah, that we have that. We also offer adult African history courses, a lot of independent courses, adult African history courses. We're about to launch a African spirituality course. We're about to launch an ancestral altar building course and maintaining course. So we have some great programs in development using the online platform that our people have access to as well. So opportunities like what Dr. Boyce is offering, you know, that gives us an opportunity to get out here and get that extra support to help boost these programs and make sure that they're out here for, you know, people to take advantage of. And we enjoy it.
One of the things that you said that I kind of latched on to, that I really want to illuminate to the larger community who may not know about African-centered schooling. You graduate people.
Yes.
People get high school diplomas that they can then take and go to college with, get into trade schools with. These are bona fide certifications that people can use to then progress their lives. And that's one of the things that I really want to stress to the community, that by bringing your children to our schools, they're getting no less education. If anything, way more, and we'll get to that in a second. But they're getting what they need in terms of the certifications to move forward with what they want with the next step in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes we get so bogged down in the myth of white supremacy that we don't take an honest assessment of the power that we do have, right? And that's kind of the case with education, where oftentimes we assume if you get a high school diploma, it has to be ratified and stamped by the state. And that's not the case in a lot of states. In Texas, where I'm located, is one. You know, in the state of Texas, you have the right to graduate your children, you know, and as long as an institution accepts taxpayer dollars, they have to accept your graduates. This is a private school, charter school, parochial school state where I am. There are no laws regulating homeschooling in Texas, and there are other states in the South that are the same. So we have a measure of freedom that some people in other states may not have. We don't have to report to the state at all. We work on an honor system in Texas. As long as you're offering the core subjects, as long as you're doing what you say you're doing, and you want to do that anyway, if you're a sincere educator, right? Then your diploma is as good as gold. And we send people to college every year and help people get jobs every year. And it works. You know, when they call, we verify the diploma, verify all the information that need, you know, keep our I's dotted, our T's crossed administratively, and we back up our degrees and our certifications, and it works. And that's all everyone else is doing, is just creating it and then backing it up with their work. And we can do the same thing. We don't need to sprinkle any magic white dust on it to make it real.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so maybe we should go into some questions that people who are unfamiliar with African-centered schooling have. Because I know when I opened the doors to my school, I had an open house, two or three of them, and I allowed parents to ask all types of questions that they may have had, because some of them were from the homeschooling community, some of them were not, some of them who had their children in public schools all their lives and wanted to know, like, what is the difference between this and that. So there are a lot of questions that parents often have, and I wish we were live right now so that parents could be asking those questions and we can field those questions. But just based on our own personal experience, we can bring up and highlight some of the main questions that we often get. So I know one of the questions that I get in my Q&As with parents about the school, about the education that we provide is, if this is an African-centered school, how are our children going to learn about the rest of the world? And the things, and what they're really asking in that is, how are they going to learn the things that they need to know to pass those tests that are in the public schools or the traditional schools, or even the SAT to go to college? Like, how are they? We need them to know the white stuff, because the white stuff is going to be on the test. So how are you going to ensure that our children can pass those tests? That is a question that parents have. And that's a valid question, because if you're going to school, you do have to college. In most situations, you are going to have to take some type of standardized test, whether it be the ACT or the SAT. So you testing is one question, but how are they going to learn the white information if you're teaching them from an African-centered perspective? And I feel like we get that question because parents have a misconception about what African-centered.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had that question. And the first thing would be I would have to ask them to define the white information. You know, what is white information? Is 1 + 1 white information? Is algebra white information? Is geometry white information? Is chemistry white information? Is biology white information? Is history white information? Right? The answer is no, and that's the first thing we gotta throw out there. You know, African-centered doesn't mean we're going to teach Black history from 8 in the morning to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. African-centered means that they're going to learn everything that they would learn in public school, except from an ownership perspective. They're going to learn math based on the experience of African people with math, right? They're going to learn science based on our experience with science. They're going to take ownership of these disciplines, see themselves in these disciplines. And studies have already shown that when children see themselves in the curriculum, they perform better.
Absolutely.
And so I'm even equipped. I've shown parents examples like the African-Centered College Preparatory Academy in Kansas City, which is one of the only remaining African-Centered public schools in America, where their children have ranked at the top in the state tests for the past 20 years, you know, and it's directly related to the fact that they see themselves in the curriculum. We teach mastery in African-centered education, but we teach ownership, you know, so that's the difference. And so not only will your child be prepared to pass an SAT if that's a route that they're going to go, they're going to master that SAT, right? And they're going to understand why that SAT is relevant. You know, another earmark of African-centered education is that we educate the child toward their goals, and rather than this cookie cutter thing, go to high school, pass the test, take the SAT, go to college. And then you look at the college ranks and they have this many African children in the fall semester. And then by spring semester, it's this many.
Yeah.
because most of them came without a plan. They came in with a dream, or they came in with this cookie cutter mentality that you're supposed to graduate high school, go straight to college, but they had no idea why they were there.
Right.
In African-centered education, we teach our children to take ownership of your destiny and develop a plan along with that dream. So SAT might not fit the plan for the young brother that wants to go and master solar technology, permaculture, or wind turbine technology, or even if he wants a certification in internet technology, right? So the diversity in planning is an earmark of African-centered education that we often point out to parents as well. So ain't no white information, it's just information, that we look at from an African-centered perspective.
Exactly. And one of the reasons why, as an educator, as a school builder, that I have an African-centered element to my school, and one of the definitions of African-centered, I always think back to an Einstein quote, and some people may know the quote. He says, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mentality that's created the problem." Right? So a lot of problems that we have with regard to pollution, with regard to poverty, a lot of war, a lot of problems that we have are an outgrowth of a particular mentality.
Well, see, what we're teaching, if I may, is in a public school model, in that Eurocentric model, that public school model, we're fooled into thinking that we're going to come out, become successful, and join this collective called the United States of America that's working together to solve the problems in the Black community. So I can come out and I can take a job with the federal government. I can come out, I can take a job with this agency, take a job with that agency that's supposed to be dealing with poverty, supposed to be dealing with crime. Okay, we have a crime problem. I'm going to join the police force. Or I'm going to go and I'm going to be a judge, or I'm going to be a probation officer. And then when you get inside these institutions, you see that these institutions are actually designed to maintain and monetize the problems inside of our community. Even Black educators inside of the public school system have told me, and I'm sure you've heard this too, that they have to fight for equity and fairness for Black children inside of the system, right? So if that's the case, then we need to establish independent systems, right, that'll actually prepare our children, prepare us to deal with the issues in our community, but not just to deal with the issues of our community, but prepare us to build new communities and develop new communities in globally, right? If need be, well, it is a need, right? So African-centered education broadens the scope, In a brief history, we've been building Black independent schools in America since the end of slavery. If you want to be technical, we were building schools during slavery. In time, we went behind the hill and somebody was sneak teaching you how to read. That was a school, right? So once slavery ended, then there was a huge Black school movement in America, right? But this was during a time where Africans would, and because of this school movement, Black children began to ask the question, well, where did my people come from? Because the only curriculum available at that time was the curriculum that benevolent white people will allow you to have. And even the good benevolent white people were going to teach you about the white Jesus. They were going to teach you that George Washington was the father of our country. They're going to teach you that William Shakespeare is the greatest writer of all time. So naturally during this movement, our people say, well, where do we come from? Dr. John Henry Clark talks about it in his documentary. Doc Ben talks about it. Arthur Schomburg talks about it. It was their formal schooling in the late 1800s and early 1900s that led them to say, where are we in history? And from those Black schools, these men and women went out and started looking. People like J.A. Rogers and Carter G. Woodson. And they started bringing back information like, yo, we don't come from slavery. Yeah, we just went to Africa, man. Look, I just saw these people on the walls designing pyramids and stuff that looked like light bulbs. I just saw scripture in a temple that looked like it was pulled out of the Bible, except it's older than the Bible. Yo, somebody's been lying to us. And then when you move into the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement, from a movement emerged on the East Coast primarily, where African people wanted to take control of the public schools in their community, control of the curriculum, control of what's taught, whole 9 yards. Of course, there was pushback from the liberal and conservative white power structure, like, look here, you know, we want y'all to be treated fairly, but we don't want you to know who you are. You might get mad, you might get angry, you might pull your dollars, and we're trying to integrate your dollars. You might pull your dollars back. So from that, these men and women started developing independent African-centered schools. The difference between the African-centered school and an independent black school still maintain the status quo curriculum. But the African-centered school was like, no, now we're going to look at the world through our eyes, through our experience. You see what I'm saying?
That's still what we have now, because we have people are like, you know, a sovereign nation. We need to separate. Any city, any urban city that you go to in the United States, you're going to find a school that is predominantly black.
Oh,
90 to 99% black. You know, I go back to the city where I grew up, Opalaka, like those schools are black children. Now, a lot of the teachers are not, but the children in the schools are predominantly black. So what you were just saying is that the difference between African-centered school and just a predominantly black school, there is a difference. We still need a space for our children. This space looks like a space for our children because it's predominantly black, even though most of the teachers may not be predominantly black. If you peel back the layers and look at what those children are learning, how they're learning, and how they're being acculturated, it's still maintaining, upholding, supporting the same.
And it's supporting a brain drain. It's supporting a brain drain on our community, because the success model is, hey man, you're special, you can get out.
Absolutely.
You can grow up and you can get out of here. You grow up, you get out of here and you go do this, you know, whereas in the African-centered framework, it's like, no, we're going to grow up and we're going to build. You're going to grow up and you're going to be a part of the solution, you know, in dealing with the ills in the African community. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be a community builder. Let your education take you wherever in the world it's going to take you. But what you reap, a part of what you reap, you're going to sow back into your people, back into the institution that brought you out of. When you look at schools like the University of Texas, or you look at any predominant school, you have alumni that come back and give, and they're a part of that institution and a part of the expansion of that institution. And the African-centered institution is on that road. You know, African-centered doesn't mean I hate white people. It doesn't mean we hate these folks and hate that folks. No, African-centered means we are centered around the upliftment and protection of our community. And a strong African community is a strong American community, or African community, or South American community. You know, you should want the African community to be strong, economically independent, politically independent, you know, and because that would help everybody. Well, except those who make money off of our failure.
Exactly. And in terms of an African-centered education helping everybody, and this is what I was saying about that Einstein quote, that you cannot solve a problem with the same mentality that started the problem. When you start to look at African-centered education, there are usually some core principles that are being taught. Some of them that you have already articulated, where you actually the success is not leaving and going to a good neighborhood, or success is being a part of the solution and helping to build. That's one of the tenets. But there's other tenets in African-centered education. And at the beginning of every semester, at the beginning of every school year, when we start, our motto at my school is creating creators. Creating creators.
Absolutely.
Not creating consumers, solely consumers. But we're creating creators. And so we spend time and lessons going over and looking at what does that mean? What does that mean, right? And so we give them an African-centered perspective of what that means, and we show them, kind of illuminate to them what they've already been taught that means, by having them look at how in what ways do we create things that create? That's an African-centered perspective on creating. You create things that create. And in what ways do you create things that destroy? Right? So we can look at a lot of the problems that we have. Something as simple as, and this is one of the lessons that I give to them. I give them a simple item in the school or from the house. And I tell them to look at it and tell me all the things that are great about this. A straw. Oh, the straws are great. Or a plastic bowl. Oh, this is great. You can eat out of it. You can use it. And people are making money from it. Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
But then if you look on the other end, where does that straw go? It goes into the ocean. And then we look at the islands of plastic. And show them video and pictures of islands of plastic. So we've created something that's great. A plastic bowl, a plastic spoon, a plastic straw. But at the end, it destroys. And then I show them bowls that have been created on the continent. Either I brought some from India, I brought some also from the continent of Africa. And these bowls are made out of certain types of grains and millets. So you can eat out of them, but you can eat the bowl. And even if you don't eat the bowl and you throw it on the ground, animals eat the bowl. Worms eat the bowl. So you're creating in a way that creates. So I charged all of my students, I give them an item. Recreate this in a way that creates.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is a training that you don't often get in schools. It's an African-centered way of looking at things. There's balance, there's creation, and you don't create in a way that destroys.
That you're going to ultimately have to pay for. Yes, we were studying nuclear reactors last week, and we talked about how nuclear energy, efficient. You know, just a little bit of nuclear energy can power your whole city. But here's the problem. Those poisonous rods, when they burn out, there's nowhere to put them. You have to bury them in water, cover them up, and then maintain the waste, guard the waste. If the system and you have to keep them cool. So if the cooling system fails, you get a nuclear leak, and now the whole environment is poisoned. And this is something that's going to have to be maintained from generation to generation forever until someone figures out a way to dispose of nuclear waste. So you have this great invention over here that we're benefiting from, but a day of reckoning is going to come environmentally as a result. And that's not the African-centered approach to dealing with the world's problems, right? So illustrating that it is very valuable. The 4 pillars of our school: spirituality, knowledge, freedom, and transformation. It's never been a mighty African nation. Spirituality, knowledge, freedom, and transformation, right? And there's never been a mighty African nation that wasn't spiritual at its base. At the Uhuru Academy, we have children who come from African-centered Christian households, non-African-centered Christian households, Muslim households, Ifa households, Moorish households. I didn't even had a Hebrew before, right?
Right. Hold on. I want to really kind of earmark that point. A lot of people look at African-centered schools and don't think that there's diversity in the school. I even had someone who sent their school to be added to the database map, but then thought about it and sent me an email a couple of days later and said, you know what, after considering what it is that you're putting together, please remove our school from this database because we are more centered on a multicultural approach. We service children of all backgrounds and families of all backgrounds. And so we don't really fit what it is that you're doing. And it said to me, this person doesn't know, one, what African-centered schooling is and how diverse our community actually is. And 3, that we don't exclude people. We don't tell people, oh, your child is Spanish, they can't come here. Oh, your child is, white, they can't come here. I have not been to an African-centered school that says that. What we do say is, you need to know that when your child comes here,
absolutely,
they're going to be learning from a perspective that puts an African way of being and an African experience in the world at the center of that learning.
Yeah. See, I deal with activists in the community. I deal with activists in the community from various backgrounds. And when we founded the school, that part was understood. You know, that part, it was understood that we're building an institution to maximize the potential of African children, of Black children. And unashamedly, you know, people say, oh, that ain't right. Whatever, the University of Alabama will run your son out there till his knees fall off, maximizing his potential to make millions of dollars for the University of Alabama. And we don't bat an eye, right? Everyone benefits from the talent of the Black child except Black people.
Except the Black community.
Except the Black community. Even when your Black child fails and they go to a juvenile detention center, that detention center is getting a certain amount of money from the federal government, state government per day for your child.
Right. So, and when they fail inside the public school,
and even when they fail inside the public school,
more money. They get more money. Average student.
More money for your child to be labeled ADHD. More money for your child to be pushed into special ed, which a hugely disproportionate amount of our children are put into special ed programs and left there. When you calculate how many potential leaders, potential business leaders that we have lost simply because it was a child with a unique learning style, put into special ed programs and never allowed to develop and never allowed to come out because their value doubled once they were labeled special ed.
Right. And a lot of parents aren't told that there are exit strategies, and they themselves can say, I'm done. My child is done with this. They have either maximized everything that they're going to get from this program, or they're not getting anything from the program, so I want them out so that it won't be labeled.
One of the
Parents
things
don't have a lot of information about how
one of the things that we do as an African Center school in our community is that we go and we advocate for parents inside the public school system. You know, and shout out to Baba Amin, you know, one of my comrades, because he took the lead with this, and we actually go sit down. And no, you don't sign that third-party paper yet, until we understand what's going on. No, don't admit guilt. Don't sign over this paper that says if this baby don't take the drugs, they get called CPS on you. You know what I'm saying? Let's sit down and let's educate parents. We hold workshops in the community, educating parents on what's going on in the system. Read the fine print. A lot of us do go in and we blindly trust because we see these degrees on the wall. And we feel like these people know what's best for our child. No, you know what's best for your child. It's your job to know what's best for your child. And African-centered institutions being inside of our communities provide us again with another layer of protection from exploitation inside the school system. Black failure is big business.
Absolutely.
And also inside of African-centered education, it's not just about fighting the power. No, it's about developing the child, you know. And when we say spirituality, understanding that, hey, it all comes from an African tree. You know, all spiritual systems have an African root, a root in dark-skinned and melanated people. Let's come together based on what we have in common. So the Christian child won't be scared of the Muslim child. You know exactly what that child believes. You're not scared of the Rasta child. That's your partner. He just happens to be a Rasta. So now you're growing up in this environment together. And then knowledge, the principle of Sankofa, learning the past so we can be better rooted in the present and prepare better for the future, right? And then freedom. We teach freedom as responsibility. Freedom don't mean you can do whatever you want to do. No, freedom means that you are responsible. You are responsible to live. You're responsible to build and prosper. That's our responsibility. That's our freedom, our Uhuru, right? Right? And then you have transformation. I ain't trying to change you. You're going to transform in life regardless. So we want to guide that transformation. We want to help families guide that natural transformation, organic transformation that goes on in our children from childhood to adulthood. So they come up out of that cocoon as a butterfly with red, black, and green wings. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And do what they have to do. And those are the pillars that we stand on. We pour libations every morning. when we get to school, to pay homage to our ancestors. We get into our creative writing. I want you to start thinking. Critical thinking skills are imperative in today's paradigm. You know what I'm saying? Then we go into our math, and at the beginning of the semester, we all have a beautiful video that we watch about the African origins of mathematics, you know, and we get into that. And then we assess each one of our children on an individualized basis. So everyone has an individualized mathematical strategy that they're dealing with in our school. You know, then we go into our sciences, right? And again, we first study the African origins in science. You know, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima did a great book back in the day, Blacks in Science, and we pull a lot from that text so they can see how Africans were building astronomical constructs, dealing with astronomy thousands of years ago, dealing with agricultural science thousands of years ago, geology thousands of years ago, take ownership, chemistry, and then we go into our curriculum, right? You know, we teach entrepreneurship at our school. We teach, what else do we have? We have an entrepreneurship program. We have our vision development class. What are you going to be when you grow up? Let's develop that vision. If you say you're a pilot, then I call you a pilot every day. I'm going to be a pilot. Well, this is our pilot right here. I'm going to be an engineer. Well, this is one of our engineers right here. And now I'm going to expose you to piloting. I'm going to expose you to engineering. You're going to know everything about it. And then you might come back and change. I'm not a pilot anymore. Okay, now which one? I want to be a lawyer. Well, good, because I know you don't want to be a pilot because you learned what it took, or you went in depth with it. And you say, well, this ain't really me. Let me look into this. And that's freedom. You have the freedom while you're in school to figure out in what direction you want to go, right? And then that leads to your transformation. As you internalize this information, I have a student, Vincent Gully. He's 11 years old. He is a pilot. He can tell you exactly where he's going to go to school. He can tell you what it costs right now. He can tell you what type of planes he wants to fly. This young man has pictures of airplanes all over his wall. You know, he loves to write about how in the future he's going to have his own airline in Africa, you know, and he wants to do tours. He wants to fly people across the continent, you know, and this is ingrained in him, you know, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about African-centered education. You know, we have volunteers, man. We had some great volunteers. We have a concept that we call a community classroom. We don't sit in the building all day, you know. We get out in the streets. We get out. We visit Black theaters. We visit Black-owned businesses. We visit the Black Genealogical Society Museum. You have to be active. We're active in African-centered education and exposing our children to Black and to African success, and even to the success of other people in that, you know, if you want to be an engineer and this engineering group is holding some sort of display over there, we're going over there, understanding that, you know, look, you're going to get out and you're going to be among these people, right? But you're going to be so confident in who you are. You're going to give them that smile. You're going to do that tie, you know, and you're going to sit in that boardroom and you're going to dominate, period. And you're going to take the skills that you learn. You're going to come back and build an institution that helps uplift your people. And that's what African-centered education is all about. Didn't mean to ramble on there a little bit, but yeah, I got it.
No, it wasn't a ramble at all. It was very important information that we need, and that we need to not just circulate within the community. There's a small community of us that know about this type of education and know about what we're trying to do with our children, but we need to reach out to other people who just have Black children. And they know instinctively, most Black parents know that something's not the best about their child's public school education. Yeah. Instinctively, they know. And some of them have the experience of going through certain things with their children in those schools. Yes. And they just, one of the things they don't know are the alternatives that are available to them.
Yes, and being aware that you have the power to become an alternative.
Absolutely.
We need African-centered after-school programs. You know, our children need to be learning their history. They need to be learning about finance. Our children need to be learning about cryptocurrency. They need to be learning about land and Forex trading. Our children need to be learning trades, carpentry, metalworking, welding. We need those programs. If the school's not offering this, we have the power to offer these things ourselves. There are Black master welders, Black master plumbers, Black master carpenters, cryptocurrency gurus, right? We need to galvanize these folks. You don't have to be a dashiki wearing Black power to be of use in African-centered education.
Right.
You just have to have the mindset that, you know what, here's a population that I'm from, that I can offer something to. There's potential. That young boy right there that's sagging his pants and rebel rousing, he's brave enough to act a fool in the face of law enforcement. Well, he'll be brave enough to be a pharmacist too. To show him that it's relevant. He'll be brave enough to be a lawyer. He'll be brave enough to be a business leader. You can sit some of these young cats in the boardroom, they can dominate right now if you teach them the terminology.
Yeah.
We have to see it. We have to stop we can't be afraid of our own children. We have to be vocal culturally about what we want. There is no shame in telling your child what you expect. There's no shame in us telling our children, this is what we expect. And some of the things we expect, we don't even do. We're training you to be better than us. You have to take it to the next level. We're going to advocate for you. We're going to protect you. We're going to hold you accountable. But we have a process in place that we trust. And we're going to implement this process. And African-centered education is about developing those processes to empower and educate our children and our families. Yeah. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. And Baba Amin, you also, like a lot of schools, not only taking children that were having problems in their other schools, but children that you know, may have been having problems at home or I know one of the families that you just started helping, it's a family that kind of went viral over the internet for something that happened to them with the police. Can you tell us about that?
December 2016, a Fort Worth police officer assaulted Sister Jackie Craig and two of her daughters after Miss Craig had called the police because a white neighbor of hers actually put his hands on her son, grabbed her son by the throat and choked him because he dropped a piece of trash in the street. Right?
I saw that online.
Exactly, and it went viral. You know, with her daughter was filming, and she called the police. And the police officer, instead of dealing with the man for putting his hand on the child, turned and told her, "You need to teach your son to stop littering." You know, and she was like, "Wow, okay, you know, I do teach him that. He did throw a piece of trash down, but again, he just assaulted my 7-year-old son." The police officer continues to berate her. She gets upset. In a nutshell, she gets tased. Her daughter, one of her brave daughters, man, 15 years old, jumped in between the police officer and Miss Craig when the altercation became physical, putting her life on the line. And it made national news. They were arrested, put in jail, released within a couple of weeks. The officer received a slap on the wrist, like a little 10-day suspension that he's appealing now. Matter of fact, the only police that got in trouble were 2 Black police officers who were accused of releasing the dash cam footage without permission. They both got stripped of rank, you know, and suspended. Yeah. And they denied the allegations, but they were still punished by the Black police chief. They were both stripped of rank and suspended for leaking the footage.
And that's what we're talking about, African-centered education, as opposed to just traditional education. That police chief graduated from some traditional high school and possibly some traditional college, and then got this job as police chief with no mindset or intention that you need to protect these communities, your community.
What's even worse, and they had to stand up and admit it, you had so-called Black leaders in our community that fought hard to get this chief. So they didn't even have the education in place to vet a Black chief to see if he was going to actually be an ally to the Black community. He ended up being a patsy, a face for white supremacy. Things got worse under the Black police chief, because now you got a Black police chief, you can't cry racism.
Right.
So long story short, the family endured harassment. The baby started doing bullying at school, press following, media following them everywhere. And the pressures of all this, notwithstanding problems that the family was already going through, being a working class family. This is a woman with 10 children. 10 children, right? Her 3 oldest daughters ended up stopping out of school. She called me in September and said, my baby's on in school. One of them had actually run away and she didn't see her for 6 months. She just came home. My baby's on in school. They just kicked them out of this one school for a technicality. The housing people were kicking her out of her home for some weird technique. It's like the city was fighting back because she's been protesting since this happened. She's been on the front lines fighting police terrorism since this happened. Well, the family's falling apart. So I said, you know what? We're going to scholarship them into the Uhuru Academy. And we're going to go to these same leaders who are standing next to you, trying to look like Dr. King at the press conference. And they're going to pay their tuition. They're going to take care of them, right? And so we launched a campaign for a scholarship for the Craig daughters. And it was successful. We have their tuition completely paid for the rest of the year. And the oldest daughter, 18-year-old Des Lene, we've already graduated her through our Operation Reconnect program, you know. And so they aren't members of the so-called conscious community. These are our people. They are Africans. And Kwame Ture said it best. You're not putting Africa in people. You're pulling the Africa that's already in people out of people. And that's what we're doing. We're recognizing the beauty that's already there. These are intelligent, powerful young ladies, and we're proud to have them at the Uhuru Academy because I tell you, society's coming for them. And coming for their peers as well. We got to build institutions that insulate our children from that foolishness.
Right. Insulate them and educate them at the highest levels. And that's one of the things that we do in our schools.
Oh, absolutely.
I can point you to countless African-centered schools across the country. Mm-hmm. And our children are learning mm-hmm. more, better, mm-hmm. faster, more relevant information. Mm-hmm. They're just being educated at the highest levels. And that's one of the things that I want to impress upon people who may not know about our schools.
And people need to understand, your baby might know the Pythagorean theorem by heart. Your baby might be in public school and they can answer, they ready to get a 1400 on the SATs or whatever. They're ready. Doesn't necessarily mean they have a plan. Doesn't necessarily mean they see where they're going to fit in the big picture, you know. And you might have a child over here that might not get the 1400 on the SATs, but man, he's focused. And wow, look how he carries himself. And wow, he knows his history, where we've been. And he could carry on a conversation with you about business, about stocks, about commerce, about all the possibilities that are out here. Now, he might not be able to sit down on that test and go as hard as the student that's just been focusing on that test. But the issue is he ain't just been focused on that test because you don't go out in the world and people don't give you a test when you walk in looking for a job. They don't give you a multiple choice paper to fill out when you want to open up your own business. You have to be ready. You have to be ready to sit down and market your idea. When you want to be a creator that creates things that create, you have to be able to present that creation. Absolutely. And those skills have to be taught. You want strong families, but then they need to be an environment where children are being taught how to treat each other. Where boys are being taught how to treat girls, and girls are being taught how to treat boys, and girls are being taught how to treat one another. We have a females rites of passage group inside our school. We have a male rites of passage group inside our school where we deal with those issues specific to boys and to girls. And they understand what a brotherhood is, what a sisterhood is, so they'll go out into the world with that same understanding. We teach leadership development, man. They have to work in groups. We do projects where we have the 4th graders with the 9th graders and the 10th graders with the 3rd graders, because you have to learn how to work with one another, communicate with one another. So there's so many transferable skills that we need that get lost in that cookie cutter. Just know how to, if you know algebra, you're successful. That's not what that is, you know. So we can't use a cookie cutter construct in educating our children. And African-centered education deals with that. But you still have people inside the system fighting for fairness for our children inside the system, and that's beautiful. But at the same time, we must build alternatives. Nothing makes a business look up more than competition. And as long as that public school ain't got no competition, why should they change anything?
Right.
Why should they change anything? And people say the public school system is broken. It's not broken. It's working just fine. It was never designed for the success of African children, ever.
Right. One other thing that I want to kind of illuminate, and then you can wrap us up,
Yes.
is culture, school culture.
Yes.
And this is one thing that parents may or may not think about when they're thinking about what a good education is.
Yes.
The school culture is almost more important than the academics that are going on in the school. So in African-centered schools, you have words like Baba and Mama. Baba is not his first name, by the way.
Yes.
Baba is a title, and it means father. My students call me Mama Cheryl.
Yes.
Mama, I'm not their mother, but it means mother. So we use those terminologies not to say that this is your father and I am your mother. It means I assume that role. I care for you, I educate you, I nourish you like your mother while you're in my presence, and therefore deserve the same respect. This is Baba. He is your father. He protects you. He provides for you. He educates you like your father while you're in his presence. And he deserves that respect. So in the culture of our school, and we spend weeks teaching culture, again, over and over and over, teaching culture within the school. How do I, when I see Mama Cheryl come through the door, how do I present myself to her?
Yes.
When I see Baba Amin come through the door, how do I present myself to him? If I'm sitting next to one of my peers, how do I relate to them? What do I call them?
Yes.
So there is a whole element in a lot of our schools and a lot of African-centered schools where you will have the teachers be Mama Cheryl and Baba Amin, and not just Mr. Johnson. Because what you're doing, there's a separation. When you say Mr. Johnson, there's a separation and hierarchy that says, I'm better than you. I'm more important than you. And so therefore, that's a certain type of relationship as opposed to saying Mama Cheryl. That means I'm related to you.
Yes. Well, see, and my role is to father your education. My role is to father this institution. My role is to nurture your education. Your father is your ultimate provider. Your mother's your ultimate nurturer. I'm their partner. I father your curriculum. I'm fathering the lesson plan. I'm fathering your development as a student. You see what I'm saying? So there's a different paradigm inside of an African-centered institution. I believe in your success, and I'm staked. I'm fully vested in the success of our children. So failure is not an option, you know. And I'm sure it's different with other African-centered schools. But like, for example, with us, I don't give F's. There's no scenario where I call an African child a failure. No, that's a challenge. We stop at C, and that stands for challenge. That's a challenge for you, and you have to. We're gonna work together for you to overcome that challenge, because I'm fully vested in your success. Your success is my success, right? And so you build up relationship collateral, because one of our requirements here for our teachers, if you teach with the Uhuru Academy, you got to pour on the praise. You got to pour on the praise. You got to, I don't care if you're bouncing off the walls, praise is energy. Now let's have them sit down. You know what I'm saying? And when you discipline and when you hold them accountable, they know that it comes from a place of love, because no one talks to them the way you do. No one points out their positives the way you do. How this dude hype that I wrote my name and I kept it on the line this time? Man, because you wasn't keeping it on the line. You wrote your name and it's on the line this time. That's a success. Man, I'm finna call your mama. Hold up. Let me take a picture of your paper. Boom. Such, let me tell you something. Jeffrey just wrote his name. His handwriting is me, and it stayed on the line. Did you see that? Y'all must have been working on that at home. I want to tell you that you're doing an excellent job, and so is he. I told you we can partner to make this happen. Now you engage in the parents as well. I tell my parents an African-centered school belongs to the parents. If you see something that's not here, I don't get up with my ego in the morning. Let me know. We're going to go get it. Let's get it together as a village. Because people talk about parental involvement. When you engage the parents, parents engage back. I'm just telling you that right now. No, in African-centered education, you're engaging the family. We have a questionnaire on our registration form. I need to know where you're coming from, and you need to understand where we're coming from. You need to understand off top, these are our expectations. What are your expectations? And let's talk about that. Let's engage in that. You know, I had a parent, you know, what we do believe in Jesus. And I had to ask him, which one? We don't do white gods. We believe that the image of a deity that's other than us contributes to our inferiority complex. That's what we believe. We private. We believe that if we want to, right? So if y'all don't have a problem with that, if you have an issue with that, then perhaps this ain't the time. But I'm just letting you know. But I've never had anybody go, okay, now black folks know Jesus ain't white. So you know, I've never really had that issue. But it's a village concept. You know, it's an empowerment-based concept. You know, community-based. An African-centered educator has to be a relationship builder and maintainer. An African-centered school, y'all, you build communities around schools, and that's what we're doing. Our goal is to build out our campus. We're looking for property in Fort Worth, Texas, to build our first campus. We want to build small, containable campuses that'll deal with no more than 100 students. We would like to have multiple campuses in multiple cities, but we want a self-containing campus that's sitting on 5 to 6 acres of land, where you can have your community gardens going on. You can build trade and vocation programs on that land. Your educators, your Baba and Mama can live on that land. The school is there. You may have a spiritual center there. You run other adult education programs and classes, but it's gated. And it's our little African-centered education village. Mess around and build 2-3 more houses on that property. You look up and you expand that property, and you look up one day, you got a community. You may put your business in there. Let me look up, it's a store. Whoa, we got a school and built a store in here. You know, oh, whoa, they make shoes over there. They go to seamstress over there. Hold up, they done messed around and built a neighborhood. Started with a school. And we have a plan. Yeah. So anybody wants to get involved, please contact me, inbox me. You can call us at 682-233-5054. You can support our efforts at uhuruacademy.com/donate. And just any questions that you may have. And we appreciate all the support that we get out there. We have supporters that give monthly donations every month from across the country, knowing that we're going to go to work every day and put that work in for our children. Right. So I want to say thank you and asante sana to you, Cheryl. Asante to Dr. Boyce Watkins. We have several students in our school that use the Dr. Boyce Watkins curriculum as a supplement to our entrepreneurship curriculum. We do youth entrepreneurship markets inside of our community using those principles. We do Black youth business boot camps inside of our community using that curriculum. So we're all working together even if we don't know each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all of the information about the school that Baba Amin just gave, the contact number, the website, all of that, I'm going to put that in the header for if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, it will be in the header. So if you want to contact Baba Amin and support the Uhuru Academy, which I hope that we all will, then you'll have the information written there. Dr. Boyce Watkins has graciously stepped out and put forth an initial donation contribution to a school, right? So, but he has mentioned on several occasions that that's just a start. He's hoping that we as a community will kind of follow that lead and see what do the schools need and how can I contribute. So if he takes one school and gives a donation to that school, go to the map, pick a point on the map, contact that school and contribute your time, effort, energy, money to that school, because we are building. We're building.
I say.
We all have plans, and we all have plans to service more and more and more of our children. And the goal, dream, the vision is to look at that map one day and so many red dots on it.
That's right. That's right.
You know, that parents will have their pick
That's right.
of what alternative program they either want to place their children in or supplement their children's education.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Right.
I thank you so much for your time,
Thanks for
Baba
having me.
Amin. And look up the Uhuru Academy and all of the amazing, wonderful work that they're doing in Texas. And contact Baba Amin and lend your support.
That's right.
Again, thank you.
Thank you. All right.